Lori, take it away.
Thank you, Zach. Good afternoon. This is Lori Gacioch, your chapter president. I want to welcome you and thank you for joining us. I wanted to start out by sharing. There we go. I wanted to share a little bit about the subject that everyone is talking about and thinking about right now, coronavirus. So where is PMI Rochester on this subject? Currently, the board of directors and our leadership are considering upcoming events in March, April, and May. Discussions around rescheduling, holding meetings virtually, or canceling events are ongoing. Our leadership is watching current events very closely, and we will definitely be in contact with the membership regarding any changing plans, so please watch your email. We are carefully considering all events and impacts before making any decisions. We have canceled our March 24th networking event, so everybody is aware. And Professional Development Day on May 6th is currently being considered, but we have not made any decisions as of yet. So as the English say, let's keep calm and carry on. Don't buy any more toilet paper. Let's take this one step at a time. All right, on to a little chapter business. So you don't have to worry about social distancing here. Join us for this event and come out to our website and sign up for Strategic IT Governance, a leadership initiative for PMO directors and project managers with Phil Weinzimmer. Check our website for details and registration, pmirochester.org. So join us virtually for that. I'd like to do a quick shout out to our outreach team on a very special program they're executing on with PMI EF, which is the Project Management Institute Education Fund. This is a social good program for youth, teaching project management skills for life. We're engaging 2 local nonprofits, Catholic Family Center and Villa of Hope. The program contains 5 to 7 students aged 14 to 18 years. And the resources we're using through PMI EF is project management curriculum for ages 10 through 14. If you're interested in helping out or just learning more about our social good initiatives, please feel free to email our PMI EF liaison, Manisha Monday, at socialgood@pmirochester.org. The PMI Rochester chapter is also presenting professional awards this year at our annual Professional Development Day. Receiving one of these awards is quite the honor in front of your colleagues and professional peers. The categories are Project of the Year, Social Good Project of the Year, Young Professional PM, and Project Management Excellence. We've been accepting submissions since December, and the deadline for submissions is April 5th. So awards will be presented at Professional Development Day. So please submit your applications today at pmirochester.org/awards. Hey, our awesome chapter is 35 years old this year. The volunteer teams are working together to bring about some celebration for this milestone, including reaching out to past presidents and sharing their stories, even reaching out to our volunteers and members, asking for their stories, which we intend to share on our website in the near future. We'll also be celebrating in some small ways at our upcoming events, so watch for those opportunities. Happy birthday, PMI Rochester. Okay, so let's get on with why we're here, Disciplined Agile. And I want to share a quick personal experience about becoming aware of what Disciplined Agile, or DA, as I'll refer to it throughout the presentation, can contribute. My colleagues at work and I have been part of a growing product at Wegmans called Meals to Go. We started back about 2 years ago with 1 team, 1 PO, 1 architect, and 1 Scrum Master. We're using Scrum as the framework to get things done. And we started out pretty manual, using sticky notes on a large window to manage the work. It was illuminating, to say the least. We grew pretty rapidly, adding a 2nd team, then a 3rd, a 4th, and then a 5th. We quickly realized we needed to think about how to scale. We didn't know how, but we forged forward, just trying things. It felt like squeezing an orange through a small pipe. Slowly but surely, we took steps to scale, identifying things that didn't work, having different conversations, holding different meetings, measuring different things, and looking for outcomes without judgment. In Agile, it's okay to fail, so you inspect and adapt. Then I signed up to be a DA champion for our chapter. And I already had some background in Agile, and I figured I could really benefit both my workplace, the chapter members, and the organization as a whole by learning DA. So why am I telling you this? Because I read the book, Choose Your Wow, and through reading that book, I realized we were already embracing many of the principles and practices of DA, which is cool that we figured it out. But I also saw some approaches that could benefit us as we grow into the future of our work. If I had read this book 6 months or a year ago, maybe I would have suggested slicing the orange up into smaller pieces in order to fit through the pipe. In other words, there were some really valuable lessons in the DA approach that can help us have an easier time in scaling using Scrum. So sit back and enjoy today's presentation. I hope you find value in it. Onward. Disciplined Agile was created by Scott Ambler and Mark Lines from Canada starting around 2009, when Scott was Chief Agile and Lean methodologist for IBM worldwide. He collaborated with Mark to write the first book called Disciplined Agile Delivery, published in 2012. Since then, Disciplined Agile has been greatly improved and has become the world's second most popular enterprise Agile framework behind Scaled Agile Framework, also known as SAFe. Unlike SAFe, however, Disciplined Agile is much more flexible and can be used on projects and products of all types and sizes. A team of 4 can typically use Scrum, which is part of the Disciplined Agile toolkit, or by dozens of teams delivering very large-scale programs. Disciplined Agile was acquired by PMI in August of 2019. Disciplined Agile's biggest challenge has been the fact that much of the world has never heard of it. This is changing quickly as the worldwide reach of PMI adds this robust Agile offering to its product portfolio as an added benefit for you, its membership. PMI has received overwhelming interest in Disciplined Agile, and PMI has over 300 chapters around the world. And already, more than half of them have nominated volunteer DA champions for their chapters, including us. So Disciplined Agile, or DA, is a process decision toolkit that provides straightforward guidance to help people, teams, and organizations to streamline their processes in a context-sensitive manner. DA provides a solid foundation for business agility by showing how the various activities such as solution delivery, IT operations, enterprise architecture, portfolio management, security, finance, procurement, and many others work together. DA also describes what these activities should address, provides a range of options for doing so, and describes the trade-offs associated with each option. DA is a rich body of knowledge composed of fit-for-context practices that help you be more effective on your Agile projects, regardless of the type of project, size of teams, or type of organization. Sounds complex, right? Also sounds like a framework that has all the answers. Maybe. Let's dive in because it's an interesting story. But first, before I get into the story, let's review some benefits, growth opportunities, and offerings. So for you, the member, the benefits could be online content, discounted books, discounted conferences and learning events, and signing up for the Disciplined Agile newsletter, which is at disciplinedagileconsortium.org. For career growth, enhanced Agile programs and certifications for PMI members, and a robust Agile career path, which Robin is going to walk us through a little bit later in this presentation. And then agility assessments, agility transformations, and agile optimizations and project recoveries having to do with partner programs and offerings. Okay, so successful agile organizations take responsibility for evolving their own agility. Success doesn't come from adopting a prescriptive framework or methodology such as Scrum or SAFe. And for true business agility, we need to choose our agile way of working or choose our wow. So copying someone else's approach to agile is not the best way to achieve business agility. Some organizations copy Spotify's model that they created for themselves. However, this is a custom approach to Agile designed by Spotify for their situation. That is, a Swedish online music company. Unless that is our situation, it will unlikely work well for us. What's impressive about Spotify is that they did what DA recommends. They evolved a way of working that made sense for them. We could aspire to do the same. The DA body of knowledge helps us to create our own Spotify, an agile model suited for our unique context. So now I'm going to bring in my partner in crime here and turn it over to Robin to expand more.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Lori. So I just wanted to give a quick little background into how I got involved with Disciplined Agile. I had the opportunity to attend the Leadership Institute meeting back in beginning of October, where Disciplined Agile, there was a breakout session associated with it. And as part of that session and what was shared at that session, I got really excited about Disciplined Agile. Having been an Agile practitioner, I had seen some of the challenges of trying to force fit a Scrum approach, for example, into a project that just didn't make sense. I had been doing Disciplined Agile for straight software development that worked, or Scrum for straight software development project. But then all of a sudden I started getting involved with hardware, and we were trying to take some of the Scrum methodology and try to fit it towards hardware and towards firmware development, where there's some different unique challenges. And it was like fitting a square peg into a round hole. So I really got excited about Disciplined Agile because of the whole idea about choosing your wow. This Choose Your Wow book, Your Way of Working, is all about making decisions for what makes sense for you. And this first was published under the title of Disciplined Agile Delivery back in 2012. And the book represents the Disciplined Agile Delivery body of knowledge. It's approximately 400 pages, so it's not light reading. But the good thing is the first 100 pages is really where the key elements and the philosophy around Disciplined Agile reside. The remaining 300 pages really serve as a detailed reference for choosing your way of working. There are 2 additional books that have been published around Disciplined Agile. One is an introduction. It's a very quick read, but does give a great idea of how Disciplined Agile evolves your way of working. And the other one is an executive guide. All 3 of those books are actually going to be, are due to be reissued through PMI. And my expectation or my understanding is that that should be fairly imminent that happens. But these are great resources to learn more about Disciplined Agile, as well as attending a training course. So if you can go to the next slide, Lori. So Disciplined Agile is based on 7 principles. And the first and foremost is delighting our customers. That's really a fundamental part of being Agile and the continuous feedback loops that we have in Agile. But it does require discipline to delight our customers, to not only fulfill their needs, but also to surpass their expectations. The next principle is to be awesome. So when I first saw that, I thought, well, that's a really weird principle. The rest of them seem, okay, understand, but be awesome? What is that all about? Well, the whole idea behind Disciplined Agile is that it requires discipline to be awesome, to become motivated, to have an environment that allows you to choose your way of working. The whole idea behind Disciplined Agile is that if we can have awesome individuals that make up, then we can have awesome teams, and if we have awesome teams, then we can have awesome organizations. And by being able to choose your way of working and not having square pegs and round holes, it allows teams to be awesome and overall have a positive impact on the organization. The next one is pragmatism. So it requires discipline for leaders to ensure that their people have a safe environment to work in and to have the tools at their disposal to make the best choices possible. Disciplined Agile doesn't prescribe to a single best practice, and in fact, they don't believe in a best practice. They believe in a set of good practices that you choose which one makes the most sense for you. The next one is context counts. It really depends on the context that you are in your particular uh, uh, project, that particular initiative that you are working on. And it takes discipline to recognize that you need to tailor your approach for that particular context and to evolve that approach as your situation evolves. One size does not fit all. The next principle is choice is good. You don't want square pegs and round holes, right? You want round pegs and round holes. So you want to have the discipline to be able to choose what makes the most sense for your particular situation, and then evolve that because situations change. What was the parameters of your particular initiative or project or whatnot yesterday may evolve. Just look at the coronavirus and the impact that is having globally. Uh, Choosing the way you're working and your particular unique situation may change from one day to the next. And that's what Disciplined Agile promotes. The next one is optimizing flow. It requires discipline to evolve and optimize your overall workflow. Analyzing the flow through your system and your organization allows you to take a look at the whole and then optimize it for the best way forward. And lastly, and almost the most important, is really being enterprise aware. You can't work in a vacuum. That's really what this is all about. It takes discipline to recognize that you're not part of, that you are part of a larger organization, and that you should do what's best for that enterprise and not just what's convenient for you. What may work best programmatically in one area may have ramifications in other areas of your overall system. Back to you, Lori.
Okay, so PMI's project management and DA guidance are for different purposes, but they're complementary. So there is no intention of combining the PM body of knowledge guide content and the DA body of knowledge into one. Each program has its own approach, so ideally we could be familiar, or we should be familiar with both. Some projects are best suited for a traditional project management approach, so nobody's suggesting throwing the baby out with the bathwater. While others are in favor of the Agile approach, which is best suited for some projects that are more iterative and fast moving, where there's a lot of uncertainty involved. There's some common overlap between the programs, specifically in the risk management and governance guidance. So it's just something to keep in mind. So DA content is organized into 4 flows: the people, the flow, the practices, and the mindset. The people aspect describes roles and responsibilities, as well as various strategies for organizing teams. And I can't say enough about defining roles as we spin up projects. It's so important that people know what role they're playing. And we'll definitely review some more aspects of each of these flows in the following slides. This is just an introduction of what the core flows are. Okay, back to you, Robin.
Okay, so Disciplined Agile, a fundamental part of it is that choose your way of working. And why is Disciplined Agile promoting that, that choose your wow? It's because Disciplined Agile recognizes one size doesn't fit all. There are so many differences between organizations that how can you choose one way of working? So differences in purpose. So are you part of finance, customer service? What is the area that you're in? Not only the industry, but even within that industry, what type of work are you working on? The other one is approach. So depending on the approach that the team is using and the different aspects of what a team is familiar with needs to be taken into consideration. The size of a team, like Lori had mentioned earlier, they started off with one small team and it grew to 5 teams or more, whatever the number of teams Lori had mentioned. So choosing your way of working has to evolve based on those particular aspects. Culture, what is the culture in your organization? How flexible are they? How willingly are they for change? You might have to choose your way of working so that it works within your particular culture. The next is geographical distribution. So Lori, if you want to just hit one more there. How are your teams organized? Are you sitting in one room and everybody's shoulder to shoulder with each other and working? Or are you dispersed, working from home? Are you working globally? All of that factors into what's the best way of working. A daily stand-up meeting, for example, may work very well with a team that's co-located, but may not work as well for a team that is globally dispersed. So it really requires you to make those choices when you look at your own individual circumstances of the particular initiative that you're working on. And all of these differences mean that you need a process toolkit that helps guide you to choose your initial way of working, as well as to evolve your way of working as your circumstances change. Next. So Disciplined Agile is an agnostic hybrid that leverages strategies from a variety of sources. So Disciplined Agile does much of the heavy lifting when it comes to answering the question, how do all the various Agile techniques fit together? In many ways, Disciplined Agile ends up being the process glue that connects the various Agile practices. So Disciplined Agile is not a replacement for Scrum, it augments Scrum. It's not a replacement for Lean, it augments Lean. So it's not meant to replace what you're doing, but it's meant to build upon what you're doing and to provide you choices. That's really what it's all about. And it leverages ideas from a wide variety of agile, lean, iterative, and even traditional methodology.
So let's talk a little around primary roles on Disciplined Agile Delivery, or DAD teams. Primary roles are ones that we typically see on all teams regardless of the situation. So DA explicitly brings in the role of architecture owner. Scott and Mark like to say that the architecture owner is responsible for good technical behavior on the team, ensuring that organizational standards are followed and that the work is of good quality. The stakeholder is a more robust term than customer, because a customer can be thought of as external to the company, where stakeholder covers internal and external customers or clients. And there are other roles in DA for scaling situations, such as program manager and others. It is important to understand that these are just roles, not job titles. Additionally, the names for some of these may be different. For instance, you may wish to call a team lead a Scrum Master, or an Agile project manager an Agile team coach. DA is agnostic with terminology. This all goes back to your way of working, or WOW.
All right, so this diagram, now we're starting to get into kind of the meat of Disciplined Agile. This diagram shows kind of an organization view of Disciplined Agile, where the hex in the middle, you can, for those of you that are familiar with Scrum, you can recognize that little symbol in the middle, and that's really the Scrum delivery process represented on that hex. But you can see that those teams need to deal with many other organizations within the company. So each one of those hex diagrams surrounding the center Disciplined Agile delivery hex are called process blades. And the process blade addresses a specific organizational capability, such as finance, people management, and data management. Each process blade encompasses a cohesive collection of process options. So this is really the fundamental component of choosing your wow. Disciplined Agile guides you in that by providing process options, decision points, including practices, strategies, and workflows that can be chosen and applied based on the context of your particular situation. Many people assume that Agile teams are whole, meaning they have all the skills, people, and authority needed to get the job done, but most of the time that's not the case. Teams need to collaborate with other teams and groups to accomplish their goals, and those teams need to work in an Agile-friendly nature. Agile often fails or is less effective in an organization because the supporting groups are not Agile. And it's really not their fault, they just haven't been educated on how to establish their own individual way of working. So Disciplined Agile, if you go on to the next slide, recognizes that there's multiple layers associated with this. So at the very bottom layer there, you see the Disciplined Agile Delivery layer. And that represents the different ways of working for an individual team. When you go up to the next layer, it's Disciplined DevOps, and you bring in more process blades associated with the different organizations that are involved or the different groups that are involved when you're dealing with DevOps. The next layer is Disciplined Agile IT, and that extends even beyond DevOps to include other groups within IT that have uh, um, a bearing on that particular initiative. And finally, the last layer is Disciplined Agile Enterprise. And this really extends Agile beyond IT to the whole enterprise. And that's where things like finance and legal and marketing come into play. And you can see that there's also process blades that kind of span between IT and enterprise, because those are the touch points between IT and those other organizations, dealing with your business teams for portfolio management and product management and things like that. And behind each of these process blades is a goal diagram, and the goal diagram is how the various practices in that area are organized. And the next slide will show the data management goal diagram. So if you want to go to the next slide. So every one of those process blades that you saw at the DA or the DevOps, all the way up to the Disciplined Agile Enterprise layer, all of those have process goals associated with them. And each one of those process goals, so data management is the process goal, and each one of those square boxes represents the decision points that to consider when you're looking at data management. So for example, improved data quality is a decision point, and what Disciplined Agile provides you is the choices that you can make for improving data quality. What makes sense for you to choose for that? The things that are in bold italicized are those things that are represent default good practices, and they're good things to start with, especially if you have a team that is new and not familiar with some of the other techniques. If there's an arrow on it, it indicates that the things that are at the lowest are less preferred than the things that are at the top. So for example, if we look at improved data quality, the metadata management is less preferred than database refactoring. And we'll take it to the next level in a couple slides. So at the Disciplined Agile Delivery layer, at that bottom layer, there's many process goals involved, because that's really where the meat of the development is, right? That's really where the team is doing the work. And so there's many process goals associated with that. And they're divided into the phases that Disciplined Agile has for the different workflows: inception, construction, and transition. And then there's also ongoing process goals that pertain across the board. So if you go to the next slide, Lori. So we're going to take one as an example. This is a process goal that's within the Disciplined Agile Delivery layer called Explore Scope. So associated with Explore Scope, there's multiple different decision points that you can make. Now, not all decision points make sense for every project, for every initiative. So really is taking what is the decision point, the decision points that make sense for you. So if you take persona, for example, what Disciplined Agile provides is, if you go to the next, is for every one of those decision points, it gives you the option, and it also tells you the trade-off. What makes sense? Why? When is that particular option a good option, and when is it maybe not a good option? So that I said that the initial 100 pages of the WOW book was the descriptive, and the 300 is the reference. This is the reference. So for every one of those decision points, it gives you the trade-offs. What makes sense and what doesn't make sense for that particular one. So this helps you make better decisions to optimize your way of working. A common approach to determine your way of working is to walk through each one of these process goals at the beginning of the project. Determine what decision points apply, and then for those that apply, choose what option makes the most sense for your particular project. Remember, context counts. So every project, you know, walking through your way of working and walking through these process goals is going to be different for every project you do, because the context will differ. On to you, Lori.
So Disciplined Agile Delivery supports multiple life cycles for solution delivery or software development, but it's not exclusive to software development. Some people think that all you need to know about Agile is Scrum, and more than 50% of practicing Agilists use Scrum. So, you know, mentally, this is understandable. Scrum can be a very effective Agile approach, but in some situations, such as where priorities are changing daily, maybe Lean or Kanban may be a better approach. And if you think that this is complicated, it's really not. You only need to understand one framework, but knowing more options such as Lean can make your teams more effective. In other words, choice is good. And due to time constraints, we'll just review a few of these life cycles. If you know Scrum, you should recognize the middle of this slide as the Scrum diagram. However, in enterprise life, it's a bit more complex than what Scrum covers. DA adds guidance for putting together your backlog, for instance, where Scrum does not. DA also recognizes that you may need some time for this before you begin building your solution, so it has a phase for inception, as Robin mentioned earlier. It also has a phase for transition if it takes some time to deploy your solution. It's very important to understand that if you don't need the phases, don't use them. Like everything in DA, context counts and choice is good. Do what makes sense for your situation. This is the Lean life cycle, and it's a good life cycle to strive for. Lean doesn't have a prioritized backlog like Scrum. Instead, it has pools of work items, and the team pulls them to work on them as they have capacity to do so. Lean also does not have sprints or iterations like Scrum does, a little less structured. This life cycle is very advanced and probably requires good automated and testing procedures in place to regularly deploy changes on a different basis. Lean and Kanban are frameworks that require probably a bit more experienced and mature Agile teams than folks that are using a more structured process like Scrum. It's not unusual for advanced Agile teams to deploy changes many times per day into using this life. The cool thing too is governance is baked into Disciplined Agile, and this is something that other Agile methods do not have. So some Agile practitioners may think they don't need governance, but it's really not true. Our stakeholders deserve to understand how their investment is being spent, the health of the project, expected delivery dates, and the status of outstanding items. So DA provides lightweight or lean governance milestones to help track the progress and the health of the project. Back to you.
So shortly after Disciplined Agile was acquired by PMI, they also acquired Flex, which is a framework that was developed by Al Shalloway of Net Objectives. And as the Disciplined Agile team integrates Flex into Disciplined Agile, this will become the high-level diagram for Disciplined Agile, similar to Scaled Agile SAFe diagram. And the beauty of this diagram is that it shows how value should flow to our customers. How that is actually done is described behind each of these shapes. The strategies to optimize the flow come from the Disciplined Agile toolkit, which is why they fit so well together. Flex is very good at optimizing large, agile, at-scale programs such as SAFe. When SAFe implementations struggle, Flex and the DA toolkit can be used to improve the overall system by removing bottlenecks to improve the flow and value. And as Flex is very new to Disciplined Agile and PMI, there is still a lot of work going on to combine those, and so there will be more coming on Flex in the future. Next slide. And if you can just bounce through those, Lori, that would be good. So, one of the key aspects of Disciplined Agile is also this idea of guided continuous improvement. So this is a common lean problem-solving flow diagram. And the key aspect here is some experiments fail and you learn something, but you still fail. Failing as fast is fine, and that's obviously one of the things around lean is to fail fast, but succeeding early is better. And that is where Disciplined Agile comes into play. If you get better at the potential solutions, at identifying the potential solutions, and you can get better at identifying what you think will make the most sense, you can get better at failing or succeeding more often. And that's really what the guided continuous improvement is all about. You know, as an example, if you had a project that launched, it's having problems meeting that 25 to 35-year-old age bracket. It's not being picked up from that age bracket. You could go back and say, well, geez, maybe we didn't get the scope right because it's not appealing to that age bracket. You could go back to the explore scope goal diagram, look at those decision points and see what decision points might come into play. And it might lead you to, for example, personas. And you may not have done personas in the first round, but you decide that you're going to evolve your way of working and add personas in because you feel that might help you understand that 25 to 35-year-old age bracket better. So the whole idea is to guide your continuous improvement into the area that will be the biggest bang for the buck, for example. So if you go to the next slide, this J curve shows that when we adopt methods such as Scrum or SAFe, we usually have a reduction in productivity as the team learns it. Then as we get better, we kind of plateau off because we're comfortable with it, we know how it goes. And as we go through our retrospectives and whatnot, you will see, you know, continuous improvement will help to, again, make that better. The whole idea behind guided continuous improvement is to make your improvements faster and have more of an impact than what they may have previously. So really, it's starting where you are, doing the best you can in the situation that you face, and then always striving to get better. Next slide. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the certification program as I'm on that journey right now. If you want to go to the next slide. So the vision behind the certification journey here is to create the world's most respected, comprehensive, credible, and worthwhile Agile membership and certification body in the world to enable organizations and community members to maximize their enterprise agility potential. And if you go on to the next slide. So there's a roadmap that was Lori had talked about earlier. The very bottom level is Disciplined Agilist. If you attend a class, then you can become a Disciplined Agilist. Next, Lori. If you take the exam that comes with that, then you become a certified Disciplined Agilist. And if you go next, if you have your PMI ACP, then you've taken the training, you've taken the exam, and you have your PMI ACP, you can automatically become a certified DA practitioner. So I took the class. I was fortunate enough to take an instructor training class, actually with Scott Ambler and Mark Lyons. It was phenomenal. So I started off as that certified disciplined agilist after I took my exam. I provided them the information on my PMI ACP and immediately became a certified disciplined agile practitioner. Because the PMI ACP, it's not a lightweight certification. It requires you to demonstrate that you have experience beyond just taking the test. And that's one of the, that's where the professional comes into play, is not only the knowledge, but the experience and the credential behind it, the exam behind it. I am working on right now the Disciplined Agile Lean Scrum Master. That's a brand new certification that they've come out, and that really marries to the whole way of working, choosing either a lean approach or a Scrum approach towards your way of working. And then finally, I'm also working my way up towards that certified Disciplined Agile instructor. And so you can see there's different levels of as you grow in your knowledge base and your certification level. And you may have heard that PMI is coming out with mini certifications. This is also the same thing that Disciplined Agile is investigating as well, as doing specialized certifications around different areas. Next. And finally, to find out more information on training and Disciplined Agile membership and certification, please go to the Disciplined Agile Consortium webpage. There's tons of information there. And you can also sign up for their free newsletter at that. There is a membership fee associated with being part of Disciplined Agile. You can get the newsletter for free, but if you want to get to any of the member-only content, there is a $50 per year charge for that membership. PMI and Disciplined Agile are working together to determine the path forward between the PMI membership and the Disciplined Agile, but for right now, it is two separate memberships. Back to you, Lori.
All right, so in summary, Disciplined Agile exists to help organizations be more successful with Agile. I think we laid that out pretty good. DA brings an enterprise approach to Agile and understand what your options are. As you can see, Disciplined Agile is a rich, comprehensive, and well-organized toolkit of strategies to help the organization be more successful with Agile. DA brings a disciplined, agnostic, professional enterprise approach to Agile, which is what our industry has been lacking. And understanding what our options are and which ones work in different contexts leads to better decisions. So no matter what kind of Agile you're using, you can be more effective with the DA toolkit. As an industry, we need to set the bar higher for Agile professionals than just getting a certification, which has no requirement for real experience. And with PMI's acquisition of DA, PMI is committed to raising the standard of professionalism in the practice of Agile in the enterprise. So I just want to thank you so much for joining us today, and we sincerely hope this was helpful information for you. Zach, do we have a couple minutes to entertain some questions?
Certainly. Before we go to questions, I just have two folks that are logged in using some sort of number. If they can just private message me in the chat so that I can make sure that we record your attendance and get your PDUs. And if anybody wants to unmute themselves and ask Lori and Robin any questions, have at it.
Well, I guess we explained it pretty well, didn't we?
I agree that it was a very good presentation.
Wonderful. Well, I would say then, if there aren't any questions, please take 10 minutes back. Hopefully you have a little bit of a break before you have to jump into some meetings for the afternoon. Have a wonderful Friday and a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lori.